going to cook up for us? Well, first of all, once again, thank you very much to the organizers, Vocento and the Lanzarote Island Council. Thank you for such a warm welcome, and thank you for sharing all of your experiences as well. Today, I have a few of the different offerings from my tasting menu. As you probably know, we focus on offering up local products, but a fusion of different ingredients. I'm from Brazil originally. I've lived here for 11 years, and I really feel like it's my hometown now. But I try to use local materials, local ingredients, but with Latin American, particularly Brazilian cooking techniques, and also traditional Spanish cooking, which is really my true passion and where I received most of my training. First of all, then, I think you tried it in the opening dinner. It was a barbecued leek with sea anemones. It's called ortiguilla. It's a very commonly served dish. It accompanies a beer, particularly in the island of La Graciosa, but it's not something... sea urchins. Sea anemone, sea anemone. It's much more common in France, less so here, actually, unusually. Actually, the problem is right now we're not allowed to go out and harvest it, to pick it. I've made a ajo blanco. It's almond soup, a cold almond cream with a little raw garlic and also roasted garlic as well. So this almond soup, then, in my version, rather than being served with olive oil, I include avocado, so vegetable oil. So we're linking this dish, this ajo blanco, this almond dish, with avocados in this case, which has quite a fresh taste in the mouth. So I put, first of all, a base of this almond cream, and this is leek ash. So we roast it until it reduces down to ash. We've chosen leek because it's actually quite a sweet vegetable, and despite the ashy taste, it doesn't feel like you're eating something bitter. It has this sweet element. I particularly like the leeks because of this the delicacy, the delicate feel in the mouth. So I'm sprinkling on this ash here, and I've also added a slice of roasted leek, much like the calçots in Catalonia. I'm not sure if you've heard of it. We roast it, we peel it, and then we put it in a vacuum packed container before we boil it. In my menu, I also coat it in gofio and fry it. So this is the cream of avocado. Now I'm squeezing onto either side. This is our pepper from La Palma. We roast it and then we crush it to chili powder. Sorry, this is chili powder from La Palma. So these are eggs from a particular fish here on the island. We salt it for 36 days in a vacuum-packed container in the fridge. We take it out, we dry it for a couple of days above a stove. In our case, we have a machine to dry them. And then I smoke it over my barbecue. This is from the albacore. So I'm going to grate it now on top. You can use any type of egg, fish egg. I prefer these smaller ones because if they're too big, it can take too long to dry them out and they can end up going off. So this is eel now. We also toast it or grill it on the barbecue. And it's soaked in red wine vinegar. Here we have some fresh avocado.
El ajo blanco
The Malaga version of this almond soup is usually served with a piece of fruit, often grapes, but in this occasion we're going to use the dragon fruit. I usually use the purple dragon fruit because it has a lot more flavor than the white one. The white one has a great texture, but it's a little bit tasteless. So this is a good complement. We add a little bit of olive oil with a little bit of coriander. And here we have it. This is our finished product with a little bit of coriander. This is my absolute favorite ingredient. My restaurant is actually called coentro, which is coriander in Portuguese. And this is the second part of our tasting menu. With which we serve after a hot dish to have this contrast in different temperatures. Thank you.
Bueno, entonces ese sería el segundo pase del menú degustación.
So let's move on to the second part of this tasting menu now. I want to highlight the bowls that we use, the ceramics. We actually buy them from a local artisan. She creates all of our orders made to measure. She's very inspired by the local environment. I tend to focus more on the flavor of the dishes themselves rather than the look of the crockery. So, in this plate, in this dish, I tried to combine Spanish cuisine, local products from Lanzarote, and also keeping in mind my roots in Brazil. It's a little bit cold, actually. Let's see if we can heat it up a little bit. No problem. Not to worry. Okay, this is easy, really. Beans, white beans. But when we have these bigger ones, they're actually better because they're more buttery and they have a better texture. So we start with smoked cheese with goat's milk. We heat it up together so that the cheese dissolves and we have this cream. So white beans cooked with laurel leaves salt and garlic. The day before, I create I make a mix of 50, 60 liters of water with some vinegar to ensure that the skin doesn't swell up too much. The beans here actually have a very thick skin, and so the vinegar actually softens that skin. And so we leave it to soak overnight. I've tried using a pressure cooker, but really the best way is the Asturian traditional method, which involves a very slow heating. And when you see the bubbles start to rise, you bring the temperature down and let it simmer. This is how they do it there, at which point they add other ingredients. But in our case, we're just going to use laurel, salt, and garlic. So we have our smoked cheese sauce, and here we have the main part of the dish. This dish allows me to use different products from the sea. I like smoked sardines. I like mackerel as well, slow roasted mackerel. In this case, we're going to use octopus. This is another one of the ingredients that most fascinates me. I never cook them in water, however. I cook them in a saucepan with some oil and very little liquid, because this is a way of maintaining all the taste and the color as well. So after that, I put them on the barbecue, and then I coat it with mojo rojo, so this red Canarian sauce, red paprika sauce. So it's quite simple, but it's quite a heavy dish, suitable for this time of the year in winter time. So we put a layer of these white beans with this smoked cheese sauce. I tend not to serve up very small dishes. I want the customer to at least have 3 spoonfuls of food. I find it really sad when customers are always left wanting more. So what I'd rather do is take one of the dishes off the menu, but make all of the other dishes a little bit greater in volume. So now we put the octopus, which has been stored in a vacuum-packed plastic and kept refrigerated. If it's still not dry enough, then we can put it in the oven just to dry it out, that last bit. So once we've finished serving up the octopus, we take the same cheese sauce with this goat's cheese, and we turn it into a mousse. And this is the final layer of the dish. So you can see that what's underneath this is a mystery for the diner. I'll finish it off with a little bit of ash, which of course always combines very well with all of our flavors, everything done on the barbecue, the smoked cheese. So we're underlining this essence of the dish. We're going to finish off with a little bit of spring onion, just to give it a splash of green. Sorry, this is chives, not spring onion. And a little slice of toast of cornbread with pumpkin seeds, so that we can dip it in and have this contrast with the crunchy and the smooth. So these are my 2 dishes for today. Now, as always, for me, there are 2 key products. So On the one hand, we have the smoked cheese and the octopus. Of course, the beans give texture, but they're really just an addition to these other main ingredients. And on the other hand, we have this fresher dish with a little bit of acidity. For me, this fire, this barbecue element are always the most important. So thank you very much.
Bueno, pues
Okay, let's go on and continue with the second chef invited for today. In this case is Jonay Perdomo, chef of Risco Restaurant, which is located in Famara. He is going to prepare a fish, a horse mackerel, that restaurant is giving big importance on local products which are nearby produced. So the year 2021 has been a year he was awarded with Repsol Sun and a Big Burman. So please, Jonay Perdomo, the stage is yours. Good morning, Jonay. Big applause. The sound, please. I cannot. The interpreter now. Okay, I will prepare something traditional, like my case is. I have some Lanzarote chive, onions, some herbs, pumpkin, some banana in this case, garlic, and we have made an onion confit together with garlic until the oil tells us if the flavor is suitable. It's a little bit strong garlic flavor. We don't want it to take too much color, so we really like to mix the olive oil with the Malmsey wine produced in Lanzarote. This is a vinegar out of Malmsey wine, and they have produced it for us a little bit with a stronger flavor and aroma. But we need to, now you get those acidic nuances once you really tried it in mouth, And now we have here the horse mackerel. What we did is that we marinated it for 1.5 hours in the salt from Hanubio, just to remove all impurities and to preserve also the loin, so that it doesn't really get apart once you cook it. You can talk. Can you please talk about the origins of this dish? What did inspire you? Well, my inspiration is rather my father, who is the one that has trained me and inspired me to get involved into this cuisine. Well, it's also homage to my grandmother. I remember that my grandmother used to pickle the cabbage and the pumpkin, and we have flambéed with a little bit of butter, a little bit of anise, some clove, and we just finished adding a little bit of sweet wine from Lanzarote to have those sweet nuances to combine and have that contrast. And we prepared a banana cream from Lanzarote. I don't know whether you had the chance to smell and try a banana produce. It is very intense in aroma, but the flavor does not contain that much sugar as we might think. But this is a homage to our friends from La Palma. I don't know whether you had to try a traditional dish which is called colines from La Palma, which is prepared with banana, with gofio, with a little bit of vinegar. And we really want to pay a tribute to our friends from La Palma who are having a really hard time. Where's the saucepan? So we're just gonna mark the fish slightly, just flip it over somehow, and then we will prepare traditional pickle. It is emulsion, we have a cream the pickled cream that we will heat up slightly. Fernando, do you want to ask? Would you like to ask any question about what I'm preparing? Well, I think it is very interesting that people get to know and some information about, how do we say it? How do you prepare fish? Because as far as I know, you normally clean the fish next to the ocean, right? Yeah, we have one of the biggest European marine reserve next to our town, so we try to treat the basic ingredients with love. We love to prepare that pickles. We like to cure the fish. We try to use the seasoned fruit combined with different aromas. And we love to keep the traditions, respecting that line. That means not to forget about where our roots are. And as far as I know, just to put in value all those traditional dishes, like the soups, right? The stews, especially in this time of the year. Yeah, you're right. As I mentioned before, depending on the time of the year and what we fish, we treat it in one way or the other. In this specific case, as we have cured it in salt, I don't know whether you can see the center. I mean, we just leave it a little bit raw so where we keep the texture and with all the flavor concentrated, right? Which is slightly saturated. This is, as I mentioned before, this is a horse mackerel. This is a horse mackerel with a pickle sauce. Yeah. Now we're going to talk about the pumpkin. We will cut it first in order to make it easier to eat it and enjoy it.
Nuestra cremita de plátano.
Now we use a little bit of banana cream. With a pickled sauce, but in a creamy texture. And to finish, we will add a little bit of fresh onions that will contribute to have some color, aroma, flavor when we try it. And Fernando, this is the dish that I wanted to prepare today. Big applause for Jonai. And with a fish that normally, people normally try to find more noble fishes, if we can call it like that, and a horse mackerel is simply a fish, if we can consider it as that. But it's really tasty, and this is the season where you can catch it in Lanzarote. And this is quite a big piece. You can see it by the loin. We love big fishes, because they have a very specific flavor with the mixed fats. And then we marinate it with salt and sometimes with very aromatic vinegar that we also prepared with different herbs and spices. And thanks God, we have a great assortment of different fish types here on the island that we can catch. Thank you so much. And now, to close this show cooking that we have prepared for today, Gonzalo Calzadilla will come here on stage. He's the executive manager of Princesa of the restaurant Isla de Lobos in Playa Blanca, Lanzarote. He has kind of a revolutionary proposal. He will prepare 8 different dishes in petit four, which are quite famous. I mean, normally the chefs round up or wrap up, the preparations, and he's going to prepare 8 petit four at his restaurant Isla de Lobos at Playa Blanca, and the petit four will be the ones that he's going to offer in the menus that he includes in his own restaurant. Why plays the onion a key role? Because it had kind of a sweetness, and onion can be worked in different manners. And I think the best person to explain it is himself. Thank you so much, Gonzalo. Welcome here on stage. Well, when Juan proposed us to give this speech, we thought about a product that was grown in Lanzarote, a volcanic product that we could grow and produce on site, and the best proposal would be just onion. So we're just thinking about how to make a good proposal with the onions. I say, guys, how about that sweetness that onions have? How about if we produce a sweet dish? How about if we prepare a dessert? And kind of the way I talk is, how about if we prepare? So let's try to work it the best way we can, and to round up and finish a good meal with a very surprising product. And what would be better than an onion that people link to stews, to sautés, meals, and that's the reason why we started to think about how to prepare this meal. We're going to show a short video about our restaurant, and we'll get started.
¿Lo tenemos ya?
Okay. So once we start working on the speech, as I explained before, we want to offer some sweet flavors, and we came to this by the sweetness that onion contain. Antonio explained today early in the morning how he planted the onions and what the volcanic ashes do, which is to retain the humidity at night, and that helps that dew that you get in the early morning hours. And so you have to keep that moisture so that the onion can keep on growing. Another characteristic of onions produced in Lanzarote is thanks to the wind, the trade wind, and that saltiness that contains the wind. The onions have been step by step adapting to the environment, and is contributing that that proteins really absorb that sweetness and those sugars. So we don't have a high production, and we don't have a very big onions, because that's sugars that make onions not to grow that big and to get such a big production. On the other hand, you achieve a really good flavor, and that's what we're looking for, right? Great flavor. So working with this great two varieties that we have here. On the one hand, we have the white onions, because it has adapted much better to this environment. And the red onion, most of them come from Tenerife, which is also so because we rather like the red onion because of sweetness, but we can play with both varieties as far as both are sweet enough for what we want to achieve. So before we started, so what we did, we just roasted some onions. We prepare. Look at how much liquid contains an just one onion that was roasted. We added a little bit of color, and that's the natural liquid that an onion contains. If you squish that, you start getting more and more liquid. And that's the way we started to work, revolving around that idea of preparing a dessert with onion, and with keto squeezing it, we obtain that liquid, and if we keep on squeezing it, we will get more and more liquid. Is kind of a broth, if we can call it like that. That's the liquid of the red onion, which is completely concentrated. We didn't burn it. We just roasted it because otherwise we wouldn't be able to eat it because it will be a little bit too strong in mouth, right? So with this restas that we have, the onion rest that we have here, kind of a paste, right? We have cooked it for all night at 69 degrees, so it's a slow cooking so that it really releases all those sweet flavors. And that paste that we have here, that onion paste that we have, we later on dehydrated in the oven another night. We have dehydrated it at 68 degrees along all night, and we have achieved two different powder. On the one hand, we have a powder which has a bigger grain, and a very thinner powder. If you compare both powders, is what you have. I mean, it's the same product, but one is milled. Is kind of. We have chosen two different textures just to work with. And we have these three ingredients to start to work with to produce that petit food. The first thing we thought is just to prepare. We normally, when you just jelly beans, that's what we wanted to make. And we substituted that fruit paste through this onion juice to produce those jelly beans. We work on them. And now we have a block, right? And we have those jelly mini cups. We have sliced them. And we have kind of a jelly mini cup, which is completely sweet, which is prepared with that onion liquid. The only thing that to finish it, when we, at our restaurant, we're going to cover it with a little bit of powdered sugar. As you see, it is really, really sticky. So now we have this, it's a mixture between sugar and citric acid to give that punch. And regarding the presentation, we are going to use this wooden box. And here we have that mini cup covered with the sugar and the citric acid in order to give more power to those flavors. And that's our first petit food. Perfect.
Y ahora dijimos, ¿y por qué no podemos hacer también una nube? Pues,
how about if we prepare a marshmallow? Well, that's what we did. We took the onion liquid, added a little bit of egg white and sugar, and that's what we achieved. Kind of a marshmallow, right? Now we're going to cut. Let's use the knife. and we cut it into mini cubes. We have those tiny little marshmallows. In this case, we are going to use the onion liquid, a lot of sugar, otherwise the egg white do not get fit, that had the texture. We're going to foster and kind of increase the taste of that onion with that fine powder. So we're going to cover it with that fine powder that we mentioned before. And here we have our second onion marshmallow. And that's the way to contrast the different colors that we might achieve with the basic product. And then we kept on thinking and making kind of a brainstorm and say, I have a couple of colleagues that come from the south, and I say, how about if we prepare, that traditional polvorón, which is a type of heavy, soft, and very crumbly Spanish shortbread that we produce for Christmas, right? And we use that dark powder that we produced before and substitute it and cook it in the oven at 160 degrees for about 10 minutes. Because what we want to achieve is that we don't want it to roast it too much. When you have that polvorón, the key factor is the flour, and as long as we cannot cook the flour because we're using the onion, we just toasted it slightly. So what we did, now we toasted the polvorón 160 degrees. Do we have the dough so that you can see the dough we work with? As you might see, this is a kind of the dough, a very dark dough that we had to cut with a pastry cutter. There you go. And what we did is just to cook it. We cook it really, really slight so that the shortening that we added to it really gets melted and gets mixed with the onion powder. And then we cook it. And here we go. And now we're going to glaze it with this onion stock. We have reduced it until we get a kind of a cream. We heat it up slightly. And let's glaze it a little bit to get that shiny look, enhancing that onion taste and that onion flavor. And here we have some glazed sugar that mix with the glaze. We have also prepared some isomal sugar crystals with that, trying to resemble that olivine that we have in the volcanoes. Cute green crystals. And that sugar gives that sweetness that we might be missing with the onion. And we're going to adapt, introduce it into the box as a third petit food that we're going to offer. And the most traditional thing in confectionery is, it's kind of a cake, a sponge cake. It doesn't have gluten, doesn't contain gluten, so it's kind of a heavy cake that it's not a sponge cake then, right? So we prepared it with butter, and we have replaced the flour by our onion flour. And this is the cake that we prepared, which is an onion cake, which is has this stony it resembles kind of a stone. And with that, what we did was, this is kind of a heavy cake, it doesn't taste as good as we wanted. So we prepared a liqueur. We prepared a spirit with the onions, with raw onions, and we left it stay for about a month because we didn't have it more time since Juan called us to prepare the speech, and we prepare a spirit. And with that spirit, what we did is just to soak the cake into that spirit. So, that moisture that we were missing in that cake is added through that spirit or schnapps that we prepared with the onions. And if you open it and break it down, you can see that it's completely moist and we have that humidity, that moisture that we were looking for. Right? So we soak it in that schnapps of spirit. And on the other hand, we're going to play with chocolate because everybody was thinking, we miss chocolate. We were, because we're so kind of obsessed with the onion, and they say, well, no. Let's prepare chocolate, and we prepare chocolate for vegans, where we just use xanthan and water and chocolate. We just bring it to 40%. We joint in and jellified. So we prepare a chocolate aganache that everybody can take it, even for allergic people. So how about if we remove the water and add some onion liquid, then we get a little bit more flavor, and that's what we did. We prepared the ganache, added a little bit of coffee to play with the flavors. So now we have the presentation. We have that ganache, that cream, and we finish our presentation with a chocolate coin to play with the texture and the colors and the flavors. So that's our fourth petit food. Regarding the fifth one, obviously, as we have that onion schnapps, let's offer people a little bit of onion schnapps. Do you see the color? Because we've added that onion liquid, and then we have covered the glass with a little bit of onion powder to decorate the glass. And that's our fifth petit food that we have achieved based on that onion product. And then we also have the Canary Islands origins. I was not born here, but I think that I've adapted to the island on all what the island can offer now is December, Christmas. How about if we can prepare that typical Christmas pastry that we prepare for Christmas time? So how can we do? Well, another star product is the lentils, So we prepare lentil flour. We prepare traditional dough with the lentils, and we needed to add to that fried pastry that we prepared that onion taste. So we prepare. So instead of preparing a product that is called pumpkin threads that we really confit, we prepare that confit, that onion thread that we prepare for dessert in order to fill that pastry. Right, and substituted it. There's traditional pumpkin strands and syrup through the onion stripes and syrup. And we use the lentils to create the flour. So normally those truchas have about 2 different flavors. So what we did was, just prepare a very sweet lentil cream. We just took white lentils mixed with a little bit of syrup in order to combine the flavors. And now we just close our trucha. I've been here for about 5 years, but there's some terms which are traditional that locals use, like wawa for buzz, the papa for potato, and trucha for this pastry. And here we have our traditional trucha, and we have replaced the pumpkin strands through onion strands and syrup, and that's our 6th petit food. And then we thought we're trying to find a dessert, an onion dessert, and we wanted to prepare a big dessert. Then we ended up with a petit four, but then we prepared a onion ice cream. And working with that onion liquid, we prepare an onion ice cream, and we capsuled it in a mold. We covered it with shortening flour, a little bit of onion powder to have a volcanic cube. Oh, it broke down. Too bad. So we use kind of a capsule. It's a bit hot, you know, so the texture doesn't keep. It was a, you know, is an onion ice cream with a film of shortening. Jose went to the fridge to get another cube just to present it, and then we cover it with an onion cream. We just took some cream and added the granulated onion powder, and as far as it was completely dehydrated, what happened with the cream was just to add a little bit of flavor and texture. So here we have an onion cream, and that's the way we would end up our onion ice cream covered with us onion cream on top of it. Let's see if we have the chance to replace this one by the other one. It has to do with the heat. The ice cream didn't, it's a little bit too much heat for the ice cream, right? We're going to cover it with the shortening, and we will just replace one for the other. And just to then end up with the last petit four that we want to propose is the following. We're just going to take the spring cloves, you know, those fresh cloves that we use just to, that Toño Morales showed this morning. We cover them in chalk, leave them in about 30 minutes, bake them, leave them the whole night stay, and then cook it in syrup. So this is the way they look like. This is a very sweet young garlic. It keeps the texture, and inside this kind of a creamy stuff, so you have the texture of the garlic, the young garlic, similar to the chive, you know. And then we dry it up a little bit with the help of a napkin, paper napkin. And we cover it with our onion powder, leaving the green part uncovered. Right? Here we have the green part uncovered. And we will introduce it into our wooden box, because we want people to think that it is planted in there, so they need to discover what that box contains. And it seems as if the spring onion is kind of growing from the box. It's kind of a game. So when the guests and the diners see, they will just pull the green part out, and we'll get out this spring garlic covered with that onion powder. Okay? And that was it. That's our presentation. That's what we tried to do. We wanted to get a kind of a traditional product from Lanzarote, like the onion is. Try to include it into the dessert menu to do something fun, because when you cook, you have to try to have fun. I want to thank the organization, my team, for being here and supporting me, for trying all the done and preparing the restaurant. Thank you, Saborea Lanzarote, GSR, for counting with us for this presentation. A pleasure, and thank you.